Hello and welcome to MotoGP Mac, where MotoGP fans come to congregate and fanboys fear to tread. And fanboys, you Japanese manufacturer fanboys, I just like to say that, well, it's going to be another year of tears. Okay, if you've seen the last race.
I don't know. Anyway, firstly, before we get into it, thank you very much, Jake and the CB, for covering while I was dealing with what I was dealing with. I really do appreciate it. It's good to be back. And yeah,
Yeah,
we
we
have
need you, man. We need you.
we have racing back, which is, I suppose, the most important bit is that racing is back. We've had a great weekend, all in all. Racing was good, but sometimes a bit dull. And look, you can't expect a barnstormer in a track like Buriram. It's just not
Yeah,
an Assen. It's not a Phillip Island track where you're Joe. So, but look, it's
there's not a
great to
lot of
have it back.
places to pass there. It seems like it's
There's
a
not
one line track.
kind of, yeah. There's some sections of it, but yeah, look, it was good, and for me, like, I have to say, I am pretty impressed with Honda. I didn't think, just looking at Mir and Zarco, I was like, something. Your fringe is a top 10. I thought they were 15th, 16th, before, after testing and all of that. That's kind of where the pace was. And I was very happy to see them fighting. Like,
Yeah, at least giving it. And I got to say one thing: Mir is riding harder than he's ever
yeah,
ridden.
yeah.
Look at him;
Well,
he's riding. He's giving it 100. Whatever sparked the fire under him to put him in a good mood. All right, has
well,
had. He's been riding 110%. He's giving it all. You know.
he is, and like that's kind of one of the things that I did mention, right? I would prefer to see, and this was with Miller yesterday as well, right? Like, the lads crashing, I don't really. Someone crashing doesn't really mean that they're a bad rider.
Right.
If they're crashing towards the back of the field, you're like, all right, you're a dipshit, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you're up the front of it, skinny end of it, in the
Yeah.
top 10, battling for points,
Yep.
and you crash, fair fucking play to you, right? Because
Yeah.
it's very easy to throttle back, come back 2-3 tenths of a second, and just finish outside the points. For me, a lot of respect for both of them. I think it's good. Romano Asbelluno, or whatever his name is, that has went from Aprilia to there as technical director. His his main thing is actually aerodynamics.
I don't
So
know what Aprilia does. That did, but you know what? Remember, we've always been talking about, is it the bike or is it the rider, right?
yeah,
Now you look back, okay? You got Bezecchi, who last year wasn't doing so good. He jumps on the Aprilia. He's once from 13th to 6th. The new rookie kid is up in 4th and 5th right off the bat. Okay,
yeah,
even
yeah.
Ralph Fernandez is going 5th. That might be the Ducati killer, or the one that's going to be up fighting them for a win. The other
Yeah,
manufacturer
yeah.
might
I think
win
Aprilia
Martin
will
here.
win. I
That's
think
a
Aprilia
small.
will win.
They
Yeah.
really they really jumped up somewhere along the line. They
Well, I
really had
thought. Well, it's not
changed.
that they have jumped up, right? They worked on the engine. The engine is better, right? To be fair, right?
Well, it's
Uh,
showing results.
it is showing results. Yeah, it is
Yeah,
better. And okay, Martin is at home, probably in the depths of sorrows, but this is encouraging
yeah,
stuff for him, right?
yeah.
To
He's
see the
probably
boy.
pulling his hair out, going, "Oh my God! If
Yeah,
Bezecchi's fifth, what the hell would I be?" You know?
yeah. Like Bisecki last year on the GP23 hated it from the very first day of the test. Hated it, didn't get on with it, knew that it wasn't going to suit him. Um, so we always knew on the 22 Bisecki was a very, very good rider, and he's still showing now on the Aprilia that Joe. In fact, actually last year it was just the bike didn't suit him, and he's back. Okay, in the sprint he had a bit of an oops with the spin up, but I think they were really good. Gora, look, for me, he's probably the surprise of the weekend, and probably one of the things that I will remember about the race weekend. Would I remember Mark's dominance? Probably not, because I've seen Mark do that hundreds of times. Do you know what I mean? Whereas this kid came in and he fucking kicked the doors off it. Like
Yeah.
the
I've been
term,
waiting for this for years, by the way. I've been waiting for years to see Marquez on a Ducati or a Pirelli,
yeah,
one of the two. You know, the strong runners.
stronger ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for me, Ayagura, is definitely encapsulates the term shining like a diamond in a goat's ass. Do you
Yes.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he was brilliant. And fair play. He was feisty. Do you know what I mean? They came past him and he didn't give a fuck. Like he was trying to back up the inside of him again. And gotta respect that. He was
And I did not
clean.
see the Ducati's pulling away from him. I was waiting for that, and I was like, well, there he's sticking right there. You know.
Well, to be fair now, in today's race they did, but in yesterday's race, Pecco couldn't get away from him, and that was mainly down to Pecco had the hard tire on in the front, and like I was because I was watching it and I was like, Mark and Alex have pulled like a second very quickly from Pecco, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I went through the tires after it, and you're like, okay, well, the opening 2 or 3 laps, of course they're going to pull because Pecco's minding that front tire. Now, Pecco, it was very interesting. I was watching a debrief last night with Pecco, and, he was going on about, the sprint races, and it seems that it's the same thing happening each year. And he's like, there is a scientific reason for it, and he said it's the fuel tank.
Yeah.
Because for the sprint they have to run a smaller fuel tank.
Yeah.
It upsets.
But less weight though usually gives you an advantage, not a disadvantage.
Yeah, but remember the fuel tank is under the seats, so
Yeah.
it changes the balance of the bike for him.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. But I figure they'd have that down.
Yeah, but he can't seem to cope with it. But you have to run that smaller tank by regulation.
Yes.
You can't just run your old tank with 10 liters.
Yeah.
All right, do you know what I mean? So it's so it is a thing. But look, for me, Ayagora was probably the standout of the weekend for me. Like, I'd be sitting down having a beer later, and I'd be thinking, fuck it, how much has his stock risen? And yes, I have been like, is he ready? Is he not ready? And I get it, right? It's one weekend. There's a long fucking championship yet to go. There's another 21 races that yet to go. Like, but saying that, he had
sometimes you can smell it. You can smell if it's the ride or if it's a one weekend deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
he didn't look out of shape. He didn't look like he was out of shape and just didn't fall. You forget. You ever see the one lap wonder or the one race wonder where he's out of shape and he's flying sideways and he just doesn't crash and he looks good for that race? Okay.
But look, I think he's a great. I think he did a fucking fantastic job this weekend.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to get on the fucking Ayagora bandwagon and be like, no. He has a lot to prove. You know what I mean? He has set an expectation. Not printing the
t-shirt yet.
Yeah, he has set an expectation now that he has to keep, right? And if he keeps that thing and finishes in the top 10 at the end of the season, you can go, all right, okay, all right, But when you look at where Aldegar and them finished, they're kind of gone, okay. There is definitely the potential there. Is it just a track that he likes? We did see sprinkles of this in Sepang, and we did see sprinkles of this when he was there. And just like remember, next track now is Argentina. Relatively no experience in Argentina on a MotoGP bike, so it's going to be interesting for him.
Where's he from? Where's that? Where's
Japan?
Yeah,
he was Honda. He was a Honda's next MotoGP star.
Yeah,
turned out that.
What? No.
But
crazy. Not that crazy.
And then Mark was outstanding all weekend as well, and I have to give him. I know people say, "Oh, you hate Mark Marquez." I don't hate Mark Marquez. I don't like Mark Marquez's attitude towards the media and all of that shit. Do you know what I mean? That's what I don't like.
I don't like the towing. I don't like towing, and I don't like bash passing. But I am a fan of his skills.
He did look absolutely mega today.
And you know what? He wasn't even trying hard. He wasn't like he was at 8/10. He had more in the tank.
I agree and I disagree. I think he was trying hard the first few laps to open the gap. And then I started watching the data, and Pecco and Alex can close in on Mark, and then Mark goes to turn 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
What way are they? Hey there, left turn, Paw! They're all left turns.
Okay.
4/10 on average is what Mark made through that corner, through those sequence of corners.
Really? That's a lot.
So he had 4/10 in the bag. He was also very good through the second last and into the last corner. Really, really, really good. Now that was a double right, but
I wonder what that is. I myself am better on a left-hand corner than a right-hand corner.
it's just your natural things sometimes. Like they've always been joking about this back and forward, Pecco and Mark, right? Pecco would say, "Oh, Mark, you need to tell me your secrets through the left-hand corners," and Mark would say, "Okay, I will, but you need to tell me your secrets through the right-hand corners." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just your strong point. It's just thing where you're more natural, like. And I do believe, like, what's his name? Mark does do the dirt track riding or the flat track riding as well.
Yes.
So
Yes, which
it's
is always
normally left turn. So
yeah.
so you just gain more comfortable. And like I was watching it coming, Pecco coming through 3 and Mark coming through 3. Pecco was kind of opening up the exit, right, making the turn into 4 quite tight, whereas Mark was coming out of turn 3 tight and opening turn 4 and into 5 and 6. Do you know what I mean? So it was quite interesting watching their lines. I know this sounds very fucking stupid, but look, that's the stuff that I would be watching out for. Is like,
Yeah.
how is it doing it? I suppose the main point during the race, Mark on lap 7 had a front tire pressure problem. Is what they're saying. I would agree with that too. He pulled to the side, let Alex pass, and there was a couple of moments there, all right, where you were like, "Is he actually out?" And then the next corner, you could see him bank down normally again. You're like, "Ah, it's okay." And then you figured it out that it was tire pressures, which I find very, very weird. Like
That's because he's
Ducati,
out front all the time. You wouldn't think he'd have a tire pressure problem.
well, he would have a tire pressure problem. Yeah. If they set it borderline.
Yeah, but I mean, being that he was out front for so long, you wouldn't think he'd have a tire pressure problem. It's usually when you get up behind another rider and they don't
No,
have the
no,
air.
no, 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 no. But you see, his problem wasn't tire pressure up; it was tire pressure down.
Okay.
Which
It was,
is which is the problem of running out in front. And
oh
for
shit.
me, it's a question that I will be interested to find out from Ducati is, was there a mistake made, or did someone set it low, or did they not? Like, realistically, everyone knew Mark was either going to be leading or second.
Yeah.
So I don't see why they set it so low. And obviously he did 7 laps. The low pressure warning light came on. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's at that stage he was whatever it was, 20-30% way through the race, and it wasn't. But then that's why he was following Alex. But you could see A, he was fucking with Alex, and B, he was really trying to drive that pressure up as fast as possible. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you could see it coming into the braking zones. Like, he was hammering on the fucking brakes to build the heat and the pressure. I thought it was very interesting. And what I found very much more interesting was that when he came into the Parc Ferme, got off the bike and all of that, and they were doing all their usual fucking jumping around the place, Tardazzi came over to him, and you could see Tardazzi waving his hand at me like, don't say anything. So basically, shut your fucking mouth about the tire pressure. So that kind of leads me to believe that there may be an issue there. That the fact that they told him shut up. You know what I mean? Now, we've seen this before, and we've seen it with Acosta, where Acosta got done for tire pressure infringement, and it turned out that there was actually a leak in the valve, of the tire, and it wasn't anything other than that. And that possibly could be true as well. So there's
Liberty, by the way, Liberty, change that rule when you get in. This is like Trump coming in. I'm going, okay, Liberty, is there a checklist for all the screw ups for FIM and Dorna that they should change?
Yeah, look, I think they have to do something, right? Because manufacturers are making a bollocks of this. And I look, at the end of the day, Michelin say not to go below 1 bar. You shouldn't go below 1 bar, but they do, right? And they've been caught on many different occasions doing it. I just think MotoGP have overcomplicated something that could be very simply done.
Yeah.
They do it in Moto 2, they do it in World Superbikes, they do it in thing, just a random check. Do you know what I mean? And a random check will always be the front row of the grid.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So if you're on the front row of the grid, your fucking tires are getting checked.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And look, that's kind of, I know it's oversimplification of it, but maybe that's what we need. Do you know what I mean? Do we need to be all this fucking monitoring and this and that and the other?
The less rules, the better.
And the average of this and the average of that, and then, you know what I mean? You run off circuit, you go into a fucking puddle.
And folks, by the way, a lead in, our boy Mac here is so good at finding information out. I'm telling you, if you're not at the track, Mac is as good as anybody out there across the board. He found out that FIM Dorna, instead of doing adjusting their RPMs, because people were starting to get a little PO'd about it, like me and other people saying this is just not fair, it's not even. They went and adjusted the fuel rails, so you can't see whether something's adjusted.
They're measuring. Yeah, they're just measuring fuel flow now, and see, it's actually the easiest way to restrict someone is like if someone is really winning, you go, okay, instead of 100 liters per hour, you're now at 90. You know what I mean? Now
it's so ugly, though. It's not right. It shouldn't. Like I said, unless everybody has the same, it's not right.
There is some upsides to it, right? Because like realistically, like a fuel flow system gets rid of the regulation for the fuel tank, right? Or the size and the capacity and the liters, and they're saying, fuck it, put 40 liters into it. If you want to. You can still only flow 10 liters an hour.
But it's not worth it letting somebody sit there and have it behind the scenes and saying, okay, we want this guy to win. Well, if you want, we don't want you to win. Okay, well, make sure he's
but I'm sure there will be a regulation around how they adjust and monitor all of these fucking things, which I haven't got into reading, but I did.
Good job, buddy. I'm just going to say.
Yes, it's another piece of useless information that we'll never probably actually see.
It is useful,
But look, it like for me, I think it is the better way. If they're going to put in restrictions, it is the better way to do it, right? Because it's black and white. There is no electronic way around.
No, there's not.
Do you know what I mean? The fuel rail, the electronics of the fuel rail are owned by the FIM.
Yeah.
So realistically, you go a milliliter over, you're done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's not open for appeal or fuck all.
Yeah.
And
it should be posted so everybody knows who has what, when, and where.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I was talking about over the weekend was about Pecco, actually, and it's like there's a lot going around about Mark dominating Pecco and all of this weekend. Pecco is in a big problem, not with Mark, but with the bike. And looking at his pace this year to last year, I know last year's race was wet and all of that, but looking at the pace in Buriram, his pace is slower this year on the new bike compared to the 2024. And one of the things that I did notice was that Mark's pole time was 1:28.7.8 or 2 or something. And Pecco's pole time the year before was a 128.7 dead, right? So Pecco could only get into the 129 ones. Do you know what I mean? So, or 128. Well, maybe he got into the 28th, but he didn't get anywhere. He did get into the 28th because he was.
I'm hoping it's just
Yeah.
a bad track for him, or just had a bad weekend and he wasn't getting set
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, it's so Pecco is in trouble with the bike in the way that he's not gelling with the bike. You know, the looking at his pace, it was much slower. So I think it is bike related rather than Mark coming in and blowing the doors off Pecco, right? It's just Pecco's not gelling with that bike. Like I
Yeah.
wonder,
I thought the same thing. I thought the same exact thing.
I
Yeah.
wonder will Pecco be going back to a GP24 setup? Do you know what I mean? As in, forget the new swing arm. Do you know what I mean? And the electronics, and just go back to what he knows.
Now, hold on a second. Now, does he have sole rights to do that? I mean, that's not going to affect Marquez's bike.
No, they can swap swing arms in and out,
Okay.
no problem.
Okay.
Electronics are free as well, like, you know what I mean? For the
Well, I'm
most
just
part.
thinking back when they had the engine decision. Remember that with 23 and 24.
Yeah, the engine decision actually was actually quite an interesting one for me.
I mean, the last time for the 23, 24. Remember that they did it way late. Okay.
Yeah, they did. Sorry, the 22, 23 engine.
There's a. Okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah, the 22 and a half engine is what they use.
Yeah.
So Gigi said in Barcelona at the winter test, they had more or less decided that they weren't going to use the GP25 engine. Mostly because the braking or the engine braking, but it was better everywhere else, but except engine braking. And that's the only thing that's really locked in is the engine, right? So they're all on the 24. But what I found out over the course of the weekend is that every single Ducati rider tested the GP25 engine to see was everyone's feedback on it consistent.
Okay, what'd you come up with?
Huh?
What'd you come up with?
They all agreed that the engine braking was worse on the GP25, even though that the power delivery and power was better and more smoother. But they all agreed that it was going to be too much of a risk to lock that in for 2 years.
Oh, I thought it had more power, but it was choppy than the 25.
No, it had more power, but the how would I say
I thought it wasn't as smooth as the 24.
No, it was a smooth on acceleration, but on engine braking, it was a major problem. But anyway, look, Mark this weekend, he definitely did put manners on Pecco, but then saying that, I don't think we've seen Pecco sorted yet. So it will be interesting to see once he's sorted. And you know, the weather conditions on Friday, Saturday were similar to last year, so you could kind of get a gauge of where he was. Do you know what I mean? But I think Pecco does have a fight in his hands, and I do think Mark has a fight in his hands, because one of the things I learned about Pecco today was when he got within half a second of the lads in front of him, and he was there a couple of times, he didn't push on. Do you know what I mean? He didn't late break into it and make a mistake and tuck the front. I think he's kind of learned to take his fucking medicine on the days that he knows that he's not going to get there. And even if a chance does pop up, not to let a rush of blood to the head come and throw those points away, because it was very easy. Because it was very easy for him to throw those points away. Especially he got in, I think, about 4/10 from the arse of the mark. And I was thinking to myself, oh, for fuck's sake, here we go. Now Pecco will just fucking try and pick up the pace and then throw it down the road. You know what I mean? But you could see from the very start of the race, Pecco was very unhappy on the soft tire. He didn't want to run the soft tire, but he had no choice to run the soft tire, if you get me.
Yeah.
So look, I thought it was pretty interesting from Pecco, just to be relaxed. Mark was able to lap whatever he wanted, and you could see, you knew when he pulled the pin from Alex, you could see like gone. Do you know what I mean? He did have those 4 or 5 tenths of a second in his pocket at any stage, and 90% of the time, those 4 tenths came from 4.56 turns 4.56,
Yeah.
which is class. For me, Yamaha, I thought they were doing pretty well. I don't know what happened to Fabio during the race, battling down there. Rins is in awful fucking trouble, though. Awful trouble.
You think so? I thought it was. I was really surprised at how far down. I thought Fabio was the one that was going to be at the top of the charts. He came in like 15th.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll have to wait for their.
Really surprised. Huh?
We'll have to wait for their report. For Fabio, it's probably tire pressure related or something like that, or he got knocked off at the start. I didn't. And
it's just, guys, it just takes time. They're going to have to get, like I said, this all bounce down to getting the engineers, and you don't get hire a bunch of engineers overnight.
Yeah, but look, I think Jack Miller kind of bucked the trend of everyone then, right? Jack was fucking up there battling with Agora and Morbidelli. And of course, Jack slips backwards, right? And we all know why Jack slips backwards, right? He goes the softest option. You know, he fucking drives the life out of it.
Yeah.
Hoping for a red flag. Do you know what I mean? So then he gets a new pair of boots and away he goes again. And, like, you got to commend him. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I'd love to go for a pint with Jack, but also, you know, he seems to be happier on the Yamaha than he ever was on the KTM, and you know, it kind of shows the other side of racing where 90% of it is mental.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
He loves that inline four. I was gonna say, has he ever run an inline four before?
No.
I thought it was his first time in it.
Well, not in the MotoGP circus. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, even did he run?
He didn't do Moto 2, no.
No.
He jumped straight from, but he's probably done like the R6 Cup and stuff like this or whatever, or he's ridden them not in a competitive series. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure he's had an inline four training bike or whatnot. But again, look,
Cup type of thing, yeah. I'd be curious to see how he did. Somebody said how well did he do when he was in the Australian Cup on a CBR 1000. You know.
Yeah. No, look, I think look, for me, he's doing really well. Do you know what I mean? Like, even with his qualifying, and I know he got a toe off Mark, in qualifying, or Pecco. It was Pecco, wasn't it? I think he got a toe off in qualifying. So.
Oh, really?
You know, still,
I don't.
He did, yeah. Well, okay, he wasn't up his fucking exhaust pipe, but Pecco was definitely a good marker for him. Do you know what I mean? He was close to him, but he wasn't. How would I say? He wasn't diving in on him towards the braking zones. Do you know what I mean? There was still a bit of distance. You could see Pecco was pulling, and he was pulling, and I don't know. Look, it was. I wouldn't call it a toe.
He kept the same distance. Yeah.
Yeah, he could have missed him in the braking zone if he got in trouble, like, you know. So look, for me, I'm happy to see that. Surprised to see Fabio down so far. Miguel Oliveira actually beat Fabio, which is a little bit weird. So kind of indicates that there was a problem for Fabio. Rins has been kind of glued to the back of the grid.
Yeah, what's up with the Rins? What are you talking about now with the Rins?
I don't know, and like his training. His practice times got thrown out on Friday because Yamaha were using an illegal electronics kit, which allows GPS access. Yeah, now it's basically a kit that they use during testing, which allows them to use the GPS. So basically, you can tune the bike corner by corner. And there is actually no GPS now allowed on the bikes for that. So the only GPS that's allowed on the bikes is actually for the race suits, so that they can measure the data and all of that at what point. But they did get thrown out. His results did get done for that. So But saying that he was down towards the back anyway, so it made no difference. Just what's the name of the unit? The unit is called an X2 Race Link unit, and the X2 has not been approved by Dorna for timekeeping. So, and then this allowed the possibility of access to GPS, which is banned in MotoGP.
Okay.
And just for the anoraks out there, in the MotoGP class, the satellite global positioning system or GPS similar are not permitted except for the GPS units supplied by the organizers and used for their media and promotional purposes. The use of airbag GPS is permitted within the rider's race suit for the sole purposes being allowed to allow the suit manufacturer and organizers to analyze crash data. It is strictly forbidden to use the GPS data shared with the manufacturers. So they do have, and his sanction was that, and they just removed his time. Now we did share with you actually as well that. So there's a couple of things. There was a person saying that Mark said a lap time, and his lap time was cancelled, that he was under Pecco's previous year's pole time. That was completely incorrect. So Mark went off on his first attempt at qualifying two, or in his second attempt at qualifying two. He was up in the first split and there was a crash. Or sorry, he was up in the first split and then he went off wide where he crashed last year.
Right.
The second time he went for it, he was up in the first split and there was a crash. And the third time there was also a crash. So while he was up on his own time from this year, not from Pecco's time last year. And unless you're some sort of fucking visionary that you can predict what his lap time would have been, he never actually completed the sectors. So, he was up in sector 1. It's impossible to say that he would have carried that to sector 4, or to the finish line. Anyway, the other thing was Pecco's. On Friday, Pecco's lap time, he did a 1:29.4. What was it?
Yeah.
1:29.4. Was it, or 1:29.7? I can't remember.
It was the lap that they got written off was a 1:29.4.
Was it?
Yeah.
1:29.4, and that yellow flag was not actually supposed to be there, and race control came out after and apologized to Pecco, which it put him into Q1, right, because they cancelled that lap. And a lot of people may not know this, but race control did come out after and apologize to Pecco, saying, there was a mistake and we're very, very sorry. And I know from a lot of people out there might be just saying, well, why didn't they just reinstate Pecco's lap and put it back in? And unfortunately, in the terms of lap times, anything is known as a judgment of fact. Okay, right. So when the lap is cancelled, it is a judgment of fact by the timekeeper, which is not open to any review or appeal.
Right. What happened was you doing shit back and forth. Is it right? Is it wrong?
Yeah. So that lap, I think that lap at that time would have put Pecco into 7th. So he would have comfortably made it into Q1.
Hey, Q1 was fun to watch too.
It was, wasn't it? It was. It's one of those things.
And what about Mortavelli, the guy that we always thought, Jesus Christ, why is he got a ride? He's been doing damn well.
He has. He's done well, and look, we kind of said this at the end of last year that he was showing signs of brilliance again. But for me, Morbidelli needs, qualifying is an issue, and he did make up a good few places in today's race. Do you know what I mean? Because he did get a 3-place grid penalty for the incident with Pecco,
right,
on Friday. And look, I think I'm just not sure does he have that raw killer edge that Pecco and Mark have. Do you know what I mean? To go for it. Um, so it will be interesting to see. Like, he's a top 5 rider on the Ducati all day long. Is he a race winner consistently?
I don't see that.
I don't
No,
think so.
I
I
don't
don't
even
think
see him consistently on a podium. You know,
so. I think he'll be. I don't think he'll be consistently on a podium. But I think he'll be consistently annoying people.
I think I think that when Martin comes back, he'll be as long as he keeps his, keeps the rubber on the road. Uh, he'll be at the pointy end. He could be fighting for a win.
I think Aprilia will take 1 or 2 wins this season. I genuinely do believe that with Martin from what we've seen this weekend. But then saying that, right, and like the
He
asterisk
has
is
to let
always
himself
on.
heal up and get a feel of the bike first. He can't be jumping on the bike wanting to be win off the jump start. He has to learn the bike a little bit. He has had no training on the bike whatsoever.
I think, but I think some tracks just blend themselves to the characteristics of a bike. And, I'm looking at this weekend as an asterisk track, really. It's the same as I would do with Phillip Island. Do you know what I mean?
They never did well at that track.
They're not, or sorry, some tracks are just rider and bike can just make a difference. And like I've said this about Agora, we're going to go to Argentina next. How is Agora going to get on there? How is the Aprilia going to get on there? He's had time to set up the bikes for this track. Do you know what I mean? Now let's go to a normal race weekend and let's see what happens. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that's where things will get interesting. Do you know what I mean? Is that we're going to watch.
Can they
Like,
set
it's
it up
only
fast enough? Can they get a prime set up quick enough?
yeah, like put it to you this way, like Argentina is what 2 weeks
Yeah.
away. Then we have Circuit of America, which I think the Aprilia will go well on again this year, and I think that's where we may see Jorge Martin back. Although I have a feeling it's going to be April, really.
Yeah.
Um, so look, for me, when I look at it, it will be interesting to see how things go there. Like, you would look at the first 3 races and of this weekend, and you'd say they're definitely marked tracks. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, he should go well there. Do you know what I mean? But then saying that, anything is possible. But I will be watching, kind of, I suppose, watching the data more so than anything else, and seeing it, and it's pretty clear with Mark. And one of the things I do like about Mark is that when he does go and do his practice laps, every lap is 100%, 100%, 100% every lap. So very quickly you can get a gauge of how comfortable Mark is or how comfortable he's not. Fucking problem with Pecco and all of those is like Pecco will be like, okay, I'm going to perfect sector 1.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then roll
Yeah.
off for sector 2 and sector 3.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
one little piece at a time. I tell you, he reminds me of the scavenger bird on Bugs Bunny. Bring you home a baby, but Bumblebee. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
yeah. But like, he's definitely working his way through where he wants to go and what he wants to do, and then he's going to be putting it in. But yeah, look, it was interesting. Okay, so yeah, look, it's one of these things. But look, like this race weekend, it was amazing, and look, it's also the first time that Mark has won. Mark has won the opening race of the season since I think 2014.
2014. Yeah, I was surprised to hear that stat. That was kind
Yeah,
of so me
yeah,
back. So,
yeah.
I mean, if you had a bet, you'd have to say Marquez is looking to be a title holder. If somebody stuck a gun to your head and said you got to pick one, you'd pick him in a heartbeat.
You would, because that's the easiest bet to pick. Do you know what I mean? It is the easiest bet to pick, and you know, a lot of people are there, and I watch the stats as well. Like there's WhatsApp groups there for MotoGP and all of this, and like out of whatever 1,000 people in it. Let's have a look actually how many thousand people are in it, if it shows that data. Yeah. Public channel. There's 5.6 million, right? And they put out a poll today to say who's going to win the Thai Grand Prix, and 9.7 thousand said Marquez.
Yeah.
And I kind of watched those polls really. Do you know what I mean? To have a look at things, but again, look, that's more people would put it like, even if Mac was qualified fucking 15th and was 4 seconds off the pace, who's going to win the race? Marquez. Do you know what I mean? So so ultimate fanboy experience there.
But the Japanese manufacturer fanboys were off the hook this year. They just saw a glimpse of.
Oh, they saw a glimpse. And look, you can't blame them, right? Because it's the fucking first positive thing that's fucking really happened for them, right? So we'll give them a bit, like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. You can rest easy this week. Do you know what I mean? Let's see again next week. But no, look, like for the Japanese teams, regardless of how I feel about the concessions, it's good to see other manufacturers up there. I think yesterday's sprint, every manufacturer was in the top 10, and that's good.
I still say they should make them work for it. Necessity is the mother of invention. And that like they didn't use the concessions like they should. And if they would have had some type of a set amount, you know what I mean? If they'd had not just an open book, you know, that they would have used them better.
Yeah, well, look, it's not necessarily an open book, and like this is one of the things with concessions. You know, every single manufacturer has concessions except for Ducati.
Yeah, and that's bullshit. Nobody should be.
KTM and Aprilia have more tires.
Yeah, not just because of Ducati. It was like with World Superbike when they were busting Kawasaki shoes and Ducati shoes, and they just it works both. Neither one of them should. No one should have penalized for being good. Like,
but you see, unfortunately, Jake, this is where sport and entertainment meet, and there's people out there believe that MotoGP is a show, and there's people out there believe that MotoGP is a business.
Remember, we always said that copying is the best. You know, is the best way to go. Right, and they should have just left it to copying because that's what always works at the end. When they get their hands in it, they always overshoot it, undershoot it. The FIM always fucks it up. You know what I mean?
Yes,
be left alone and let it find its own level.
Yes and no, right? Because what the Japanese have done is copied.
Yeah,
they have done.
And that worked.
But the problem is that even if they copied, it was going to take them years to catch up.
Yeah, but it takes even more. It even seems like it always takes even longer when the FIM gets their hand into it and tries to force it. It just goes
to be fair,
years and a half. You know,
they've given the concessions last year, and to be fair, I reckon the Yamaha is about half a second a lap off the Ducati now, and I would say the Honda is about 8-9 tenths. That was 1.5, 1.6 seconds last year. So they have gained a lot. And the concessions have fast tracked the development. Do I agree with it? I still don't agree with it, right? But in a way, and I hate to say this, in a way, the concessions have worked to close the gap, right?
I don't know if it has. I think they would have worked harder if they didn't have the concessions.
Do we have a Honda in the top 10 today? We do.
Yeah.
And two of them were running in there. This time last year, right? they were nearly being fucking lapped.
Oh yeah, they were down in 14th. You know what I mean, 15th.
They weren't even scoring points.
I still think if they needed a fire under their ass to say you got to get up or shut up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just think Look, for me, I just think the concessions have unfortunately worked, but I think the amount of money that both teams have thrown
And by
at
the
it
way,
is just fucking ridiculous.
the engine thing is so corrupt. The engine freeze that you were going to tell me that the Japanese manufacturers were going to vote on it, and FIM said, "Oh, don't worry about it. We got you covered. We're just going to do it unilaterally. You're already through because concessions will make them. We'll just cut them off. We'll have to vote by themselves."
Yeah, well, no, the Japanese queried that thing, and then it was like with concessions, they still remain. Yeah. So realistically, yeah. But look, you can't blame the Japanese turning around and saying when this discussion was had, and when this discussion was had, 3 of the 5 teams agreed to it, and then Honda and Yamaha queried, well, what is it? What the regulations are now saying, and compared to the regulations of the concessions, there is a discrepancy that was cleared up, and then Honda and Yamaha voted accordingly. But within that time, Aprilia had changed their mind, and then it was whatever it was, 4-1 or 3-1 or whatever it is. Yeah, 4-1. So,
but as a business plan, you would think they wouldn't want the Japanese in at all costs, because the people are now buying European superbikes. The European superbikes are getting bought where they're switching from buying Japanese to buying European superbikes now. Big bikes, down the road.
I still don't think that
you go with the trends, and you go with what people like, and you go with if you want all the new people, you'd have the wings, and if you wanted the new people, you'd have something exotic. They don't, like I said, they're not going to put a Honda or a Gixxer poster on the wall. They're going to put a Ducati or a KTM on the wall. The kid,
it just depends, man. It just depends. And
the little chink kid, the little Asian kid, right? What did he have? 93 in the red suit. Because it was a Ducati. It was flashy. They liked that. That's what makes the sport. You know what I mean?
I would disagree on that. In the way with that young fella specifically, he was a Marc Marquez fan, right? And if Marc Marquez wore a pink fucking tutu, your man would be in a pink tutu with his head. And there becomes the discrepancy between.
But the big red suit helps. It's kind of there's that their fan base is grown.
I'm coming back to that. Like I've seen hundreds of young fellas going up to Marc Marquez in their Repsol Honda race suits and all. They'll follow their idol, right? It's like my young fella and his favorite soccer player. Right? Like he will go to a Wolves match. He will bring every jersey that he has with a player's name on the back of it.
Right.
And if he meets them, or if they're coming out to sign or whatnot, he's like, "Give me my Jose Sa jersey."
Yeah.
Right. He puts that jersey fucking on. Right. Next thing is another fella comes out, "Give me my Thing jersey." That jersey on, gets a signature on the back of it, and that's just normal fans. That's that. And for me, seen it in Japan quite a lot. Like especially in Formula One, you'd have the Japanese super fan where they fucking dress up, make stupid hats of Formula One players, all of this stuff.
Did you see all the faces they had? But notice they had the faces, but they didn't have Honda faces up there. They had the KTM riders. They had the Ducati riders, and even the lower ones, the blue ones. No, God, I don't have a brain for it. You know what I'm saying? They had Alex Marquez up there.
Yeah. But those posters were given out. Those posters were not just.
What the heads?
No. Yeah, those are given out. Yeah.
Oh, are they? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I saw about 15 or 20 of those in the stands, and you're like, okay.
These people aren't supposed to have enough money to eat. Where are they getting all this money for? You know what I mean?
Well, this is the event of the year for them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So they find the money, and then they go and they enjoy the whole time. I suppose we need to talk about KTM. So Acosta had a bad day. Has looped back into the Acosta that we know, where he is crashing. Something that he's been very open and publicly saying that he needs to stop doing, and again it's come up again, which is not so good. Let's just call it.
Well, he's Ducati bound.
He is 100% Ducati bound. Yeah. Then you have Brad Binder, who KTM have said that the new bike is built basically for the needs of Brad Binder, and he was not the Brad Binder that all weekend that we know and love. Do you know what I mean? He was off weekend, and let's just see again. Like, I suppose we do have to be fair and give them a couple of race weekends to settle everything down. Use of the salad box and all of this is definitely.
I don't care what anybody says. The financial situation is hurt.
It's true, yeah, and I'll talk a bit in detail about that there in a few minutes. Then we have Enea Bastianini, who did a good race today. To be fair to him, a good race today, but a poor race yesterday. Like, I was looking at it yesterday's sprint race, he was something like 27 seconds slower than he was the previous year. 2 seconds a lap on average, slower. So, so you have that. Then you have Maverick, who was battling with Samkit Chantra, a fucking rookie on a Honda.
Yeah.
Kind of shows where they are.
Where you at? Yeah. Really, exactly. I'm sorry, that Chantra kid, he might have had a lot of people cheering for him, but that's just because that's a home cooking. He wasn't really setting the world on fire. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
So why isn't Vinales stomping all over him?
Yeah. Now, the KTM situation then, obviously last Wednesday or last Tuesday, there was a meeting with the creditors or the courts.
Yeah.
And there was an agreement made that a one-time cash out, equaling to 30% of the total claim, which is 548 million.
Which was the minimum amount, by the way. That's the minimum amount they allowed.
It's the minimum amount is 30%, and that has to be deposited by May 23rd, 2025. There was a further deal then that the PR Mobility Group need to raise another 800 million in fresh capital. So that is another point of it. So, like, while how we call it is that the wolf.
I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, people think, they're out of the woods now. No, that 500 million means you have to come up with the 500 million, or we're back to square one. We're bankrupting. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So
then you need the 800 million, or we're back to square one. And where we have the products that we're going to sell for this fresh revenue.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the other second point of it now, is that KTM can now start selling products again. They haven't been able to sell product while this has been undergoing. So all product had been ceased, or manufacturing of the product had been ceased, because realistically they needed to actually get a number of what products they have and however. But again, if they're doing it, but again, as you mentioned, they're far from outside of the woods. It's still a major worry. So look, there's still realistically there's about 1.3 billion still outstanding even after this, which that some of that has to be paid. Do you know what I mean? That there's a restructuring plan beginning June 2025. and then they have to be putting like 50 million, 60 million, 70 million chunks into it at a certain stage. And look, at the end of the day, it has to affect downstream.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are, it has to affect downstream. And what it looks like, and this is where I'm worried personally, is that I think KTM could slip back into full concessions this year. That's where their level of performance is right now.
Yeah.
And what does that equate to? That equates to Pedro Costa getting up and getting on a fucking Ducati. What team would not put Pedro Costa on the Ducati?
Yep.
You know? So look, for me, it's kind of interesting. The other thing I suppose I was looking at, there was comments on about Mark on the Ducati and all of this. And, one of the things that, like, Mark got off a pick of a bike of the Honda. He got onto a 23, which wasn't the best Ducati, but it still won the fucking title the previous year.
Yeah.
And now he's on a GP25, and they're like, oh, Mark's bike is the best and he's the greatest and all of this. It kind of still does nothing for your legacy. Like, I look back at Michael Schumacher, right, and it was one of the things I was thinking about when I was reading the comments, and I was just like, Michael Schumacher was paid a lot of money to go to Ferrari, right?
No, I disagree on that.
Just wait. Ferrari couldn't complete 12 fucking laps without blowing up its engine.
Right? Okay, it's racing.
It's Italian. Do you know what I mean? It would actually bet how many laps the engine would last.
It was that bad. Oh, it was beyond the normal race blow up. Okay.
Yeah. And he went there with a technical team, Ross Brawn, John Todd, all of these, Rory Byrne, all of these guys. And they changed the mantra from a V12 era engine to a V10. Right? And at that time in Formula One, you could still use whatever V you wanted, as long as it was like 3 liter V8 or V12 or V10 or whatever.
I didn't know that. Run this by me again. You could have it whatever V. I mean, you could run a V10 or a V8 or a V12.
Yeah. At that stage.
You had the choice of one. So, I didn't know that.
You had your choice, yeah. So, like, Ferrari used to always favor a V12. Some people, Renault used to go with a V10.
I like that.
And then it kind of changed then a couple of years after it, but. Ferrari changed from a V12 to a V10, but they were fucking absolutely nowhere. Like, I mean, what was it? Like, when Schumacher joined, I think it was like 17 years in the doldrums, like, without fucking winning anything, like, nothing. No world championship, no nothing. And Schumacher went there to a team with nothing and then built the team around him. Do you know what I mean? No, Ferrari, like, he was a twice world champion. Do you know what I mean? So he left his world championship winning team to go to Ferrari, if you get me. So he put it all on the line. And then, obviously, he won another 5 championships with Ferrari. Do you know what I mean? And then was retired by Ferrari for Raikkonen. Then came back to Mercedes, did shit in Mercedes. And then, unfortunately, had a skiing accident, which he seriously hurt himself. But when you look back at legacy, you're like, that's a legacy. You took something from nothing, even when you were world champion. You went to a team and you proved to the point of, it's me.
Yeah, we always said it. A GOAT has to have more than one manufacturer and win more.
Well, yeah. Look, there's one manufacturer. Like, you look at Lewis Hamilton, right? He went to Ferrari, he was in McLaren when McLaren was in the good years. Went down. He then went to Mercedes. Mercedes was okay, but there was an engine reg change coming the following year. So there was nothing done in that.
By the way, did Lewis win with McLaren?
He did. He won a world championship with McLaren.
Yeah.
Then he went to Mercedes, but there was a hybrid engine reg change.
Yeah.
And Mercedes came out with the best fucking engine of anyone. And then he won the championship based off that engine. But that engine was dominant for 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
And that's where kind of, like, I suppose for me, what Formula One does better than most, like in MotoGP, is that they continuously change the regulations to upset the pecking order of the grid. So like we had a in that Ferrari time, you knew it was going to be Schumacher winning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they changed the regs and it fucked them, right? Then I think it was McLaren took over then, I think, was it? Yeah, McLaren took over then. Then they changed the regs again, and then Red Bull took over, and Braun, and then they changed the regs again, and then it was Mercedes took over. Do you know what I mean? And then they changed the regs again, and it was fucking Red Bull took over. It's all of these things. But again, what it does is kind of highlights who is it, like, is it the person or is it the car? Do you know what I mean? And
Right.
99% of these teams, they will have a superstar and they will have a high level, but not as good as the superstar, you know? And you look at it, and this is in all Formula One teams, and this is similar in MotoGP. But the problem with MotoGP at times is they don't change the regulations enough to make a difference. They tweak them.
Yeah, well, I agree that you can change the regulations, but don't hinder the best and bring them down.
Well,
Take
no,
the ones at the bottom and bring them up, help them up. You see what I'm saying?
But sometimes true, but like within the regulation, like when we talk about concessions, right? Concessions are actually in Formula One as well, but they're put into the rules in a different way. So, if, for example, this year my manufacturer, I'm Red Bull, say I win the championship, and your team finishes last, right?
Right.
You get 110% more aero time than I will. So
Okay.
you're given a chance to close the gap aerodynamically.
Okay, from the bottom up.
From the bottom. But that's the same as concessions.
Yeah, but concessions are tearing. They're going to do it from the top. Like they're penalizing Ducati because they're the best.
Yeah, but it's the same. Is that they're giving, say, like last year, I think it was Williams or State Formula One.
It's not the same because you're having people go out there, make something, make it better, and something take it away. It's just not good for human nature to have people who wants to work something and
but no,
soul and have it taken away.
But it's the
same.
Like
front ride height, right? Maybe even though it didn't work, it really wasn't that great or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they banned it, and they said, "Hold a second, you didn't need to let it go." Even if it would have,
but they banned
it out, and they wouldn't have used it. But still, they should have been able to try and use it.
But you need to relax though on that, right? Because they changed the regulations for the following year. They didn't ban it because Zarco was able to run it that full season.
Yeah,
even though it was a race of time,
and it didn't work that well anyway.
But it's still the same. So if I have 100 hours wind tunnel time, I've won the championship. I have a 100 hours wind tunnel time. Okay. If your team finished last, Stake F1, I think they finished last, then they get 150 hours. So they get 50 hours more time in the wind tunnel than I do because they finished last or you finished last.
Yeah.
So it's the exact same. Like the only thing is you cannot put a MotoGP bike into a fucking wind tunnel and get accurate data. So they have to run the bikes on the track to get the data. As we now see with all these fucking fans and fucking didgeridoos hanging off the fucking side of the bikes. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. For KTM, I think big trouble ahead. And I hope, like, if they're running around midfield lower than that in a financial crisis, someone who is not KTM and racing loving will turn around and say, well, you're spending 150 million on this. That has to go.
Yeah. And it makes sense. I would say if businessman is not going to walk in there and go.
Now, there is talk.
I gave you good news. I did give you good news that Honda is not going to pick up Nissan or Mitsubishi. Okay?
That's right. Yeah. I read that.
The $11 billion for that is gone. But they still have $55 billion in debt. Now, I'm keeping my eye on that on the side to see how much that's going to affect.
Yeah, I actually heard Musk is interested in Nissan now. But
Musk is looking at what?
Nissan, yeah.
Jesus Christ. He must have hit his head or something. Yeah.
Well, there's many people. Yeah, so it is. Look, it'll be interesting for the rest of the season with KTM. Though I am really, I suppose, worried about it. I did do a video that BMW are interested in buying it. Look, it's a cheap way in, relatively, because remember, KTM's racing business is completely separate from the MotoGP or from the KTM function. So therefore it could be sold off quite easily. And realistically, what they're only taking is the MotoGP contract out of it. I don't know whether that. Look, I would always believe that there was some talks. I don't know how legitimate those talks are. But if there is a function or something going to happen, my understanding is that definitely the racing section, i.e. the MotoGP section, BMW are interested in. There was a talk that they were interested in purchasing some or a majority stake in KTM, but they would want to move everything out of Austria.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is going to fly. So I think it could only just be the racing section of. Realistically, what BMW want to do is they want to buy the 4 KTM entry slots. Is what they really want to buy.
They just want to buy the slots in the GP
and like the GP slots exactly. And then like realistically, I can't imagine BMW. No, they may run a KTM if they do run the KTM business. They may run the KTM, and they may run a BMW project. But I think that sounds very, very expensive to have two complete separate projects.
Yeah.
And I think like the steel trellis frames and steel frames and all of this will go. I think it will go to more traditional BMW style.
Yeah, I think it would go by the wayside. Yeah.
Yeah. So, look, it will definitely be interesting to see what happens in that space. But saying that, it is pretty frightening to see the performance of KTM this weekend has been pretty scary. They don't look stable. They don't look happy. The riders themselves.
You're talking about the World Superbikes?
No, the KTM.
Oh, I thought you said BMW there for a second. I'm like,
oh no, KTM or BMW. They're in a bit of trouble, all right, in the World Superbikes as well. I need to actually dive down and see what restrictions they did put on the BMW for Toprak winning the championship. So.
Well, you think they did the fuel rail on him?
They definitely did something. Yeah. Nice. He was definitely pissed off about something, and that's why you saw his reaction. You saw Toprak's reaction. It's like, if it's going to be like this, then I'm not going to be racing here anymore and all that crap. But
I bet you how much you would. I'll lay odds that no one's ever gave Honda a fine. Their rails will be untouched.
I think they'd all have to, like. I don't think they're going to just turn a blind eye. Like, they'd have to do that. And remember, look, like the racing regulations and the way teams go racing is like a court of law. Do you know what I mean? And if you're doing anything illegal that's not in the regulations, and caught, then you're fucked out. And one of the things we've always said about Honda is that they're very protective of their image, and I don't think they would want to be seen to be caught out doing anything illegal. Do you know what I mean? So look, let's wait and see.
No, it wouldn't be illegal, but just the FIM will not come down on them. They'll give the fuel railing. They'll restrict the fuel rails on the BMW and the Ducati, and they'll leave.
Well, look, that's kind of
leave them alone.
Well, yeah, look, that's. I think that's well. That's where all concessions come from, don't they? You know, realistically, if you're looking at it, like, why is Ducati the only one without any extra concessions? Simply because they have the most wins and the most points. That's where it is. And if you look at it, and like as I mentioned, there is no one in Group B of concessions. There's KTM and Aprilia in Group C, and Honda and Yamaha in Group D. And I genuinely think this year, mid-season, what's going to happen is KTM will go into Group D. And they will have the exact same concessions as Honda and Yamaha for the next 2 years, or for the next 6 months anyway, unless they win the bike. So, and then 2027, the first 6 months of 2027. Guess what? Everyone has concessions.
Beat up, but anyhow, the little itty bitty factory of Aprilia will still get the shit kicked out of them in regulations.
Oh, they will. Yeah.
See, this bullshit. Everybody should have the same freaking rules. Everybody pull themselves up.
That's it. But look, then saying that,
you play soccer. You don't say one guy's really good, so he has to wear heavier shoes. You say, hey, put some lead sneakers on that bastard. He's really good.
Well, technically we do, right? Because I can tell you, like, my son's league, there's players from Division 1 to Division 8, and if you're not, Premier to Division 8, so that's 9 leagues. So if you ain't good enough to be in the Premier, guess where you're fucking going? Downwards. You know what I mean? And you're assessed, and you're assessed, and you're assessed, and you're assessed, and you're assessed. And then you find your right grouping, and you're like, okay, go play. Technically, it is, like, John, and it's a harsh reality of it, Joe. Like, if you're in the bottom league of 10 leagues, you know, a reality check there, kid, is you're not that good. You know, so you know, it is kind of there. Look, in the harshest terms, and like you see it even in local football, right? And I'll put it to you this way: if there's 5 leagues or 5 divisions within a league, and you're in Division 5, obviously you wouldn't be the strongest football player, and you need the most development. Correct?
Right.
But of those 5 leagues, there'll be Premier and Division 1, and they play every single weekend because they're Premier and Division 1. And Charlie there, that is in Division 5, plays every second week because he's Division 5. So if his match is cancelled, 1 week, it could be 4 weeks between a game. Whereas the Premier in Division 1 would have 4 games that month. That person might only have 1. So it's so you see it's reversed the other way around at times as well. So, but yeah, look, all in all, this weekend, thank God, racing is back. Something to actually fucking talk about.
I know, finally, Jesus. When's the next race?
It is 2 weeks' time, and in Argentina.
Argentina.
You'll be lucky actually. Now, next 2 races are on your actual time zone. Yeah. So Argentina, I think, is in your time zone or closer.
Well, you know, I'm all signed up for all the things.
I didn't actually sign up for MotoGP.com this year. I've decided to actually watch the races on the TV. So obviously I have a way of recording those and whatnot, but I think there's only a couple of races that are on during the night. It's either late either on at normal time or very early in the morning, which, like, for example, when we're shooting this on Sunday morning, it is 10 to 11 in the morning of my time.
I always figure I'm helping out the sport too. If I get this perception of helping out the sport.
Well, you could be lining Dorna's pockets, really. Is that what you're doing?
Thanks, rub it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'll get Espeleta now to send out a personalized thank you.
Yeah.
Dorna supporter.
Yeah, we're gonna screw all when we screw the European manufacturers. We're gonna think of you. Yeah, right.
That's it. Anyway, on that bombshell, we'll wrap it up there for this week. Thank you, everyone, for the love and support and listening. And we will see you all again next week.
Hasta la vista, folks.
Have a good one.